This is Hyon Yong Chol, one of the highest-ranking generals in North Korea and Kim Jong Un's left-hand man. Just 10 months earlier, he was appointed Minister of the People's Armed Forces by Kim Jong Un himself, one of the most powerful positions in the country. In North Korea, this role is not just a military title. It places its holder at the very top of the armed forces, a position reserved only for the regime's most trusted figures. For years, Hyon appeared beside the leadership during military inspections, national ceremonies, and high-level state events. But in late April 2015, everything changed. Hyon suddenly disappeared from public view. No explanation, no official statement. His absence was quickly noticed by South Korean intelligence analysts monitoring North Korean state media and leadership appearances. Then, weeks later, satellite imagery published by the Committee for Human Rights revealed something unusual. Hidden between the mountains near Pyongyang, analysts observed strange activity at the Kanggun military training area. According to later intelligence reports, the scene may have revealed what really happened to Hyon Yong Chol. This is one of the most disturbing stories linked to the regime, accusations of disloyalty, fear inside the leadership, and one of the most shocking claims ever connected to Kim Jong Un's rule. For decades, North Korea has been built around one idea: loyalty to the Kim dynasty, a bloodline that has ruled the country for more than 70 years. Inside the country, loyalty is not just expected, it's a matter of survival. From childhood, citizens are taught that the survival of the nation depends on absolute obedience to the supreme leader. For years, the regime has maintained control through surveillance, propaganda, and strict punishment. Officials are expected to show complete discipline at all times. One mistake, one act seen as disrespectful, can end not just a career, but a life overnight. Sometimes, people simply disappear. And among all institutions in North Korea, none is more important than the military. In North Korea, Songun, or military first, is a policy promoted under Kim Jong Un, where the military is placed above almost everything else in society. The army is both protector and enforcer, a pillar of the regime itself. That's why high-ranking generals live under enormous pressure. Every public appearance, every meeting, every reaction in front of the leader is watched carefully, because in a system built on fear and absolute obedience, even closing your eyes at the wrong moment can cost your life. At the center of the military elite stood Hyon Yong Chol, a man who had spent most of his life inside North Korea's military system, a world built on discipline, silence, and absolute obedience to the Kim dynasty. He joined the army in the 1960s. During the early years of the regime, he survived through years of political shifts and leadership changes inside the system, where purges, disappearances, and sudden executions were used to maintain fear and absolute loyalty at the highest levels of power. Hyon served under Kim Il-sung during the era when the foundations of the military state were being built. He remained active during the rise of military first rule promoted by Kim Jong Un. Decade after decade, rank after rank, he became a trusted figure inside the armed forces and one of the country's top generals. By 2010, under Kim Jong Un, he had been promoted to the rank of 4-star general, a position reserved for top trusted figures within North Korea's military elite. And when Kim Jong Un died in 2011, Hyon appeared among the officials surrounding the funeral procession, one of the clearest signs that he remained close to the center of power. For decades, He had dedicated his life to the regime, to discipline, to loyalty, to survival inside one of the most dangerous political systems in the world. Under Kim Jong Un, that system became even more centralized. The government, the military, the courts, and the media all revolve around him. When Kim Jong Un took power after the death of Kim Jong Il in 2011, many outside the country saw him as young and inexperienced. But inside North Korea, something else was happening. The balance of power was beginning to change. High-ranking officials who had once seemed untouchable suddenly disappeared from public view. Some were removed from their positions, others were reportedly arrested, purged, or executed as Kim Jong Un moved quickly to consolidate control over the regime. Fear began spreading through the military elite, and despite the growing instability, Hyon Yong Chol began to stand out. Unlike many officials who faced uncertainty, Hyon attracted the attention of Kim Jong Un himself. His long military career, his discipline, and his survival through previous eras made him visible inside the new leadership circle. In 2012, he was promoted to Vice Marshal, one of the highest military ranks in North Korea. Soon after, he became Chief of the General Staff, placing him near the very top of the country's military command. Later, he was appointed Minister of the People's Armed Forces, one of the most powerful positions in the regime. By then, Hyon was no longer just a senior officer. In just a few years, Hyon went from a long-serving general to one of the most powerful military figures in North Korea. He appeared beside Kim Jong Un at military events, inspections, and official ceremonies. For years, Hyon stood at the center of power, untouchable, respected, and trusted. But one moment would soon change everything. Inside a military meeting hall in Pyongyang, senior generals and party officials wait in silence. Long rows of uniforms fill the room, their posture rigid, their attention fixed toward the entrance. Then Kim Jong Un enters. Applause echoes through the hall as officials stand to greet the leader. No one remains seated, no one speaks out of turn. As always, Kim walks toward the center of the room before raising his hand slightly, a silent signal for the applause to stop. The room immediately falls quiet. Kim observes the room as everyone remains focused on him. Only after he takes his seat do the others sit down around him. Meetings like these were among the most important gatherings inside North Korea's military leadership. According to state media reports, discussions often focused on military readiness, operational planning, and what the regime described as methods of fighting what they called US imperialists. Language deeply embedded in North Korean propaganda and military ideology. Inside North Korea, the United States was seen as the regime's greatest enemy, and inside meetings like these, absolute loyalty and discipline were taken seriously. Because every second is watched, even small moments of distraction are noticed. Nothing feels casual, everything is controlled, and every detail reflects hierarchy and obedience. Among the officials seated near the leadership is Hyon Yong Chol, the Minister of the People's Armed Forces. Hyon had attended many meetings like this and had passed this test many times before. But this time, something was different. In late April 2015, Hyon stopped appearing in public events and official state media coverage. At the time, Hyon was not an ordinary official. He was one of the most powerful military figures in North Korea. Some analysts even described him as effectively the second-ranking military official in the country. For years, Hyon had stood at the center of military power. he attended high-level meetings, appeared in state broadcasts, and remained constantly visible beside the leadership. Then, suddenly, with no announcement and no public statement, he was gone. But inside North Korea's system, silence at that level often has a meaning. As days passed, his name quietly disappeared from official references and state coverage. Other officials continued appearing beside Kim Jong Un, while Hyon remained absent. Then reports from South Korean intelligence sources began to emerge. According to those reports, Hyon had allegedly been removed from power after accusations of disloyalty and insubordination. Among the claims was that he had shown disrespect during military meetings attended by Kim Jong Un. None of these accusations were officially confirmed by North Korea, but the rumors continued spreading, and as Hyon remained absent from public life, the mystery surrounding his fate only grew deeper. In May 2015, South Korea's intelligence agency began briefing lawmakers about what may have happened to Hyon Yong Chol after his sudden disappearance. According to those reports, Hyon had allegedly shown signs of disloyalty during military meetings attended by Kim Jong Un. One of the most widely repeated claims stated that during an event in late April 2015, Hyon was captured on video appearing to fall asleep in Kim Jong Un's presence. Other reports claimed he had also failed to carry out an order from Kim Jong Un, although nobody publicly explained what the order was. Then came the most disturbing claims. According to South Korean lawmaker, the National Intelligence Service reported that Hyon had been executed without trial within 2 or 3 days of being arrested. Reports suggested he was killed around April 30. A deputy director of the NIS claimed that hundreds of people were forced to witness the execution at a military academy in northern Pyongyang, and that the weapons used during the killing were anti-aircraft guns, weapons designed to destroy targets in the sky.
South Korean intelligence says one of Kim Jong Un's top military commanders was executed, shot by anti-aircraft guns as hundreds of North Korean elites watched.
The use of these weapons wasn't meant specifically to kill Hyon, but to send a message to the military elite, turning the whole execution into a public spectacle. Satellite imagery published by the Committee for Human Rights showed an unusual and strange military setup hidden inside the mountains at the Kangun military training area near Pyongyang. The whole scene looked like this. 6 ZPU-4 anti-aircraft units stood side by side along the firing line, their barrels aimed toward targets positioned roughly 30 meters downrange. Behind the firing line was a separate viewing area overlooking the field. Near it was a small structure where Kim Jong Un himself stood alongside senior generals and members of the military elite, watching the scene. South Korea's Unification Ministry described the purge as another example of what it called fear politics inside North Korea. Some analysts believed that this showed a broader shift under Kim Jong Un, while Kim Jong Il was often linked to quieter purges and secret removals. Kim Jong Un's early rule appeared increasingly linked to highly visible punishments and public displays meant to reinforce fear and loyalty inside the regime. But despite how widely these stories spread, many details were never fully confirmed. North Korea never officially confirmed Hyun's execution or publicly explained his disappearance. Even intelligence agencies later admitted there were limits to the available information, and because of the secrecy surrounding the regime, the full truth may never be known. What remained certain, however, was simple. One of the most powerful generals in North Korea had suddenly disappeared from public life. and in a system built on fear and absolute obedience, that silence itself said everything.